Welcome back to Cozy Rosy Crochet. Today we're learning how to make the double crochet cluster stitch, and it's worked in an alternate fashion so that we get this beautiful alternating texture all the way up this square. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on another one of my crochet tutorials or patterns again. Let's find out the materials we need to make this square, which is the square number 9, I believe, in the Hodgepodge blanket crochet along. So the materials that we're going to need to make our staggered cross double crochet cluster square, which is quite a mouthful, is going to be, of course, some Aran weight yarn. Now, as you can see, I've used quite a lot of this shade already, but it's shade number 250. And it's an Aran weight yarn, so worsted, size 4 weight yarn, and 100% acrylic. Now, of course, we're going to need a crochet hook. I'm sticking with the recommended hook size for this yarn, which is a 5mm crochet hook. I also have a darning needle and a pair of scissors, just so when we finish off, we can get those ends woven in as quickly as possible. So gather all of those materials and let's get started. So this pattern is worked in turned rows, so we're going to start by making our slip knot, ready to place that onto our crochet hook. Just pull on that working yarn to tighten the slip knot, and we're ready to make our starting chain. So our chain for an 8-inch square is going to be a chain of 32, so we just yarn over, bring the loop up and through the loop on our hook, and we're going to make a chain of 32. So once you've made your chain, come on back and we'll carry on with the rest of row 1. So once we've made our chain of 32, we're going to start by yarning over the hook, ready to work our first part of the crossed double crochet cluster. So we're going to yarn over the hook and insert our hook into that 5th chain from hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there's number 5. So we've yarned over, insert the hook, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, then we're going to yarn over again, and we're going to insert our hook into that 4th chain just behind where we've just worked. A little bit fiddly, but it's the first crossed double crochet cluster. So once you've inserted the hook, you're going to yarn over and bring another loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, that leaves us, oops, don't split yarn like me. That leaves us with 3 loops on our hook, so we yarn over and pull through all 3 remaining loops on our hook. The 3 unworked chains that we left at the beginning, that counts as our first double crochet of the row, and then we've got our first crossed double crochet cluster. We then chain 1. We then skip that next chain and work the start of our crossed double crochet cluster into the next chain. So we yarn over, insert our hook, we've skipped 1, and then insert our hook, yarn over, bring that loop up, yarn over, pull through those first 2 loops. We then yarn over the hook and work back into that skipped stitch or chain. We yarn over, bring our loop up, so we have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and just pull through those first 2 loops, and then finally yarn over and pull through the remaining 3 loops. We then chain 1, and we're going to repeat that all the way down our chain. So we'll do a couple more together. So we yarn over the hook, we skip the next chain and work underneath the top loop of the next chain along to work the first part of our double crochet. We then yarn over, working back into that skipped chain, yarn over, bring our 4th loop up, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, leaving 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and we finish with a chain 1. Once more, shall we? So we're skipping that next chain, we've yarned over our hook, and we're inserting our hook into the next, yarn over, bring your loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, we then yarn over the hook, working back into that chain that we've skipped, yarn over to bring a loop up, yarn over, pulling through just the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the remaining 3, and then we do our chain 1. So we have these little clusters here of these crossed double crochets. So continue to work all the way down to the last chain, and in that last chain we're going to work 1 double crochet. So I'll meet you all the way down here for the end of row 1. So I've just worked my last cross double crochet cluster. I've done my chain 1, and I'm just going to work 1 double crochet into that last chain. And at the end of row 1, you should have your chain 3 that counts as a double crochet and your double crochet at the end. So that's 2 double crochets and 14 double crochet cluster stitches. Going into row 2, we're going to start with a turning chain of 4. Now that chain 4 counts as a double crochet and our chain 1, and that means that we're going to skip this chain space underneath our hook, and we're going to start by working our double crochet cluster beginning in the chain 1 space, and this is what's going to make them alternate. So we're going to yarn over the hook, insert our hook into that chain 1 space, yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we work the second part of our double crochet cluster into the top of that stitch of the previous double crochet cluster from the previous row. So we yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, bring our 4th loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the remaining 3 loops and chain 1. And we just repeat that all the way along, working the first part of our double crochet cluster into that chain 1 space. So we yarn over, insert the hook, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over the hook, working the second half of our cluster stitch into the top of our stitch in the previous row, yarn over, bring that 4th loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the remaining 3 loops and chain 1. So repeat that all the way down to the last chain 1 space, and I will meet you at the end to finish row 2. So for our final cross double crochet cluster, we're working into the top of the initial chain 3, and then we're finishing the second part in the edge of the last cross double crochet cluster from the previous row. There's a lot of words there. So to do that, we're going to yarn over the hook, insert our hook into the top of that chain 3 that we left unworked at the start of our project, yarn over, bring your loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, and then just as before, we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into the second half of the cluster from the previous row. Pull through all 3 to complete, and you don't need to do your chain 1 because we're going to do our turning chain. So at the end of row 2, you're still going to have 14 cross double crochet cluster stitches. You're going to have 1 double crochet, which is from this starting chain 4, and that counts as a chain 1. So going into round 3, we're going to start with a chain of 3, and that does count as a double crochet. And then we start working our crossed double crochet cluster into that first chain 1 space. So we yarn over the hook and insert to work the first part of our double crochet cluster, and then we work the second part into the top of the double crochet cluster in the previous row. Remember to chain 1, ready to work your next double crochet cluster starting in the chain 1 space. So continue to work all the way along this row, working your cross double crochet clusters, and I'll meet you at the end of this row to work the last stitch. So I've reached my final cross double crochet cluster, and I just wanted to kind of make sure that you were happy that we're working into that chain 1 space that we worked, that was originally a chain 4 space at the turning chain, and then we're just going to work 1 final double crochet into that 3rd chain that we made at the start of row 2. Oh, if I can get my hook through. 1, 2, oh, it is there, that's why it's difficult. 1, 2, 3, there we go. So once you've completed row 3, we can start our repeat, and we're going to repeat for rows 4 to 13. We're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 all the way up until we have a total of 13 rows. So we've only got to make 10 more rows to complete the square, and then we're going to be ready to work our edging. So remembering that row 2 started with that chain 4, and then we skip over to that first chain 1 space. So continue to work rows 2 and 3 until you have a total of 13 rows, and then I will meet you back for our edging. So I've completed all of my 13 rows, and this is another one where it's going to look a little bit rectangular, but once it's spaced out it will be more of a square than a rectangle, I assure you. Now, to complete the edging, we're going to work all the way down the side of this square. We start by making a chain 1, and we're going to evenly work down the side of this square. So the way that we do that, because we've worked double crochets, it's probably one of the easiest edgings to do, because we're going to place 1 single crochet into the side of the double crochet and then 1 in the bottom of the row. And we just continue that all the way down, 1 around the post of the double crochet and 1 into the end of the row. So continue to work all the way down, evenly working your single crochets, and I'll meet you at the first corner all the way down here. So I've worked my single crochets down the side of that square, and I'm ready to work my first corner, which is where my slip knot is. So into that first chain, I'm going to work 1 single crochet, a chain 1, and then I can work a second single crochet into the same chain. And that gives us like a little mini corner to the edge of our square. So once we've worked our corner, we're going to work 1 single crochet into the bottom of each of these chains where these stitches have been worked. Just working 1 single crochet all the way along. I'll meet you all the way over here once we've worked these single crochets to work our next corner. So I'm going to work my corner into the bottom of that starting chain 3 that we left unworked. So 1 single crochet, chain 1, and another single crochet. We're then going to work up the other side of the square, working 1 single crochet into the end of each row and around the post at the end of the row as well. So just work all the way up to the top of the row 13. Also row 13, I was right. And I'll meet you there ready to work back along the top of row 13, working 1 single crochet again. But we're going to work that corner first, so I'll meet you there. So I've worked my first single crochet into that chain around that chain 3. I'm going to then work a chain 1 and then single crochet back into that same chain space again. Now, working across the top of our square, we're going to work 1 single crochet into the top of the cluster stitch, and then 1 single crochet into that chain 1 space. So repeat that all the way along the top of the last row, row 13, and I'll meet you to work our final corner. So I've worked into the top of that final cluster stitch there, and I'm going to work my corner right here into that last stitch. So the chain 1 and the extra single crochet all into the same stitch. And then to finish, we can just slip stitch to that first single crochet that we made, and we're ready to fasten off. So I've just made a little chain 1, grabbing my scissors, nice long tail so that we can weave it in, pull up with our hook, and that is another square completed. I really hope that you've enjoyed working your own staggered cross double crochet cluster square. I'm really in love with this stitch. I love the way that it almost looks like a zigzag. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give the thumbs up, and of course come along and share your square with me over in the Facebook community group, which is linked in the description box for you. I'll be back tomorrow with another crocheted granny square pattern for you, so we can keep working on our Hodgepodge blanket crochet along. I'll see you again soon.